Okay, so SQL Server Data Tools is one option for executing packages, but this is really only available during development. Another tool is DTExec, which is a command line tool with a lot of options for running packages wherever they are, setting configuration values, validating the package, and doing plenty of other things. Even if you prefer using command line tools, DTExec can be pretty daunting. So SQL Server includes DTExec UI, which is a GUI-based tool that makes it easier to work with DTExec. It provides an easy interface for creating a DTExec command line, complete with parameters, which you can then run directly from the UI or copy the command line to use in a command prompt or PowerShell window. DTExec UI acts as a GUI shell for DTExec, with no functionality for package execution on its own. That's all handled by DTExec. Now, when you execute a package from Management Studio, it simply runs DTExec UI. Surprisingly, there actually isn't any built-in execution feature in Management Studio. And Integration Services doesn't have its own package scheduler. SQL Agent provides scheduling capabilities for Integration Services, and then within SQL Agent, you can call Integration Services packages in two ways. As a SQL Server Integration Services package, which is a SQL Agent job specifically for calling Integration Services packages, and the operating system type. All right, so let's talk more about DTExec UI. This is the execute package utility. You can launch the execute package utility by double-clicking a DTSX file in the file system. The SQL Server installation program creates this file extension association in Windows for you automatically, whether you want it or not. And so it's important to understand that Integration Services package names all end with the .dtsx file extension. Since that extension is registered with Windows to load the DTExec UI application, anytime you double-click a file with that extension, then DTExec UI application opens. And that can be a little bit surprising if you were expecting for SQL Server Data Tools to load instead. So what the tool does is it provides an interactive way to build command lines for DTExec. You have many options for executing the DTExec command line tool. A benefit of using DTExec UI is that you can copy the command line for use in a batch file in a SQL Server Agent job or for ad hoc execution at the command line, again using DTExec. At a minimum, you have to supply the package name and location to execute a package. Optionally, you can specify package configurations, data connections, and more. When you execute the package after setting the options you want, the utility displays a dialog box with progress information as the package executes its various tasks. In this exercise, I'm going to use an existing classifyRows.dtsx package to explore DTExec UI. The package reads some 120,000 or so rows from the AdventureWorks 2012 Sales.Sales Order Detail table and counts the number of odd and even values of the Sales Order Detail ID column. Okay, so it's just a little bit of make work. It then records the count along with other execution information in the Windows Application Event Log. The package does have one configuration value that you may need to set, the name of the SQL Server instance where AdventureWorks 2012 is installed. Now, DTExec UI resides in the SQL Server bin directory for Integration Services and, as I mentioned, is registered as the default handler for the DTSX package. Okay, so here I am with Classify Rows. Because this file is associated with Integration Services as a package, I can double-click on it, and that loads this execute package utility. Okay, because I opened this from or by double-clicking on a package in the file system, the package source is already correctly set to file system. But I can select SQL Server or the package store as well. Because it's the file system, I don't need to log into the server. And this identifies the location of the package. So I could change that if I decided, oh, I double-clicked on the wrong file. All right, Let's take a look at configurations. The utility, unfortunately, doesn't automatically pick up the configurations, so I need to explicitly add it. So I'll click on Add. It'll go to actually the incorrect directory, so let me go to Packages and Security. That's where this configuration file is located. Okay. All right, and so now it's going to use that configuration file. Okay, then I can also modify any connection managers. So in this case, it's using AdventureWorks 2012 on the local default instance, and that's what I want. So I'll select that. Or I could change the connection string to use a different database, different server. Okay, but I do need to select it in order for the package to use it during execution. So you can already tell the DTExec UI isn't quite automatic. You need to manually change some things almost every time that you execute it. Okay, let's look at execution options. And I want to validate the package without executing in this particular case. So this option gives you the chance to test your package's settings before actually executing the package. And then notice, if I'm not just validating it, I can also, if I undo this, I can enable package checkpoints if you have any defined in the package. Then I can look at the reporting page here. In this case, I want to know about errors, warnings, custom events, pipeline events, and information. But I can select more or deselect any of those if I want to reduce the amount of noise. And then I also can implement various levels of console logging. All right, now there's a lot of other options, but I'll go straight to the command line here. Because what this is this is a recap based on all of my settings, any that I changed, as well as the default settings. This is the command line that is required by DTExec. So this is actually the end product of DTExec UI, this graphical tool. So it generates this command line, and it's going to pass this, actually a set of parameters for the command line, it's going to pass these to the DTExec utility. Alternatively, I can copy and paste all this and run the DTExec utility, or use it in a bash file, or however I want to use it. Okay, but in this case, I want to execute the package directly from the DTExec UI, so I'll click on Execute. But remember, I selected to only validate the package. And so, that's the results that I get. All right, now as you can see, attempting to configure from this particular file, that's in the wrong location. Couldn't find the configuration file. So I know that I have a problem, and I need to go in and fix those problems before I can successfully execute this package. All right, so it goes in, validation started, everything otherwise validates. Okay, so when I'm done reviewing that, I can just close that dialog box.